Chapter 5 of Ayesha, The Return of She. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Chanel Jackson. Ayesha, The Return of She by H. Rider Haggard. Chapter 5 The Glacier. Even that day we came to an end at last, and after a few more lumps of yak, our tent being gone, we threw his hide over us and rested as best we could, knowing that at least we had no more avalanches to fear. That night it froze sharply, so that, had it not been for the yak's hide and the other rugs and garments, which fortunately we were wearing when the snowslide began, it would, I think, have gone hard with us. As it was, we suffered a great deal. "Horace," said Leo at the dawn, "I'm going to leave this. If we have to die, I would rather do so moving, but I don't believe that we shall die." "Very well," I said. "Let us start. If the snow won't bear us now, it never will." So we tied up our rugs and the yak's hide in 2 bundles, and, having cut off some of the frozen meat, began our descent. Now, although the mount was under 200 feet high, its base, fortunately for us, for otherwise it must have been swept away by the mighty pressure of the avalanche, was broad, so that there was a long expanse of piled-up snow between us and the level ground. Since, owing to the overhanging conformation of the place, it was quite impossible for us to descend in front where pressure had made the snow hard as stone, we were obliged to risk a march over the looser material upon its flank. As there was nothing to be gained by waiting, off we went, Leo leading and step by step trying the snow. To our joy, we discovered that the sharp night frost had so hardened its surface that it would support us. About halfway down, however, where the pressure had been less, it began much softer, so that we were forced to lie upon our faces, which enabled us to distribute our weight over a large surface, and thus slither gently down the hill. All went well until we were within 20 paces of the bottom, where we must cross a soft mound formed of the powdery dust thrown off by the avalanche in its rush. Leo slipped over safely, but I, following a yard or 2 to his right, all of a sudden felt the hard crush yield beneath me, and ill-judged, but quite natural flounder and wriggle, such as newly landed flat fish gives upon the sand, completed the mischief, and with one piercing but swiftly stifled yell, I vanished. Anyone who has ever sunk in deep water will know that the sensation is not pleasant, but I can assure him that to go through the same experience in soft snow is infinitely worse. Mud alone could surpass its terrors. Down I went, and down, till at length I seemed to reach a rock which alone saved me from disappearing forever. Now I felt the snow closing above me, and with it came darkness and a sense of suffocation. So soft was the drift, however, that before I was overcome, I contrived with my arms to thrust away the powdery dust from about my head, thus forming a little hollow into which air filtered slowly. Getting my hands upon the stone, I strove to rise, but could not. The weight upon me was too great. Then I abandoned hope and prepared to die. The process proved not altogether unpleasant. I did not see visions from my past as drowning men are supposed to do, but, and this shows how strong was her empire over me, my mind flew back to Ayesha. I seemed to behold her, and a man at her side, standing over me in some dark, rocky gulf. She was wrapped in a long travelling cloak, and her lovely eyes were wild with fear. I rose to salute her and make report, but she cried in a fierce, concentrated voice, "What evil thing has happened here? Thou livest? Then where is my lord Leo? Speak, man, and say thou hast hid my lord, or die. The vision was extraordinarily real and vivid, I remember, and, considered in connection with a certain subsequent event, in all ways most remarkable, but it passed as swiftly as it came, and then my senses left me. I saw a light again. I heard a voice, that of Leo. "Horace!" he cried. "Horace! Hold fast to the stock of the rifle!" Something was thrust against my outstretched hand. I gripped it desperately, and there came a strain. It was useless. I did not move. Then, bethinking me, I drew up my legs, and by chance, or the mercy of heaven, I know not, got my feet against a ridge of the rock on which I was lying. Again I felt the strain, and thrust with all my might. Of a sudden the snow gave, and out of that hole I shot like a fox from its earth. I struck something. It was Leo straining at the gun, and I knocked him backwards. Then down the steep slope we rolled, landing at length upon the very edge of the precipice. I sat up, drawing in the air with great gasps, and oh, how sweet it was! My eyes fell upon my hand, and I saw that the veins stood out on the back of it, black as ink and large as cords. Clearly I must have been near the end. "How long was I in there?" I gasped to Leo, who sat at my side, wiping the sweat that ran from his face in streams. "Don't know. Nearly 20 minutes, I should think." 20 minutes! It seemed like 20 centuries. How did you get me out? You could not stand upon the drift dust. "No. I lay upon the yak skin where the snow was harder and tunnelled towards you through the powdery stuff with my hands, for I knew where you had sunk, and it was not far off. At last I saw your fingertips. They were so blue that for a few seconds I took them for rock, but thrust the butt of the rifle against them. Luckily you still had life enough to catch hold of it, and you know the rest. Were we not both very strong, it could never have been done." "Thank you, old friend," I said simply. "Why should you thank me?" he asked with one of his quick smiles. "Do you suppose I wish to continue this journey alone? Come, if you have got your breath, let us be getting on. You have been sleeping in a cold bed and want exercise. Look, my rifle is broken and yours is lost in the snow. Well, it will save us the trouble of carrying the cartridges." And he laughed drearily. Then we began our march, heading for the spot where the road ended 4 miles or so away, for to go forward seemed useless. In due course we reached it safely. Once a mass of snow as large as a church swept down just in front of us, and once a great boulder loosened the mountain, rushed at us suddenly like an attacking lion, or the stones thrown at the Polyphemus at the ship of Odysseus, and, leaping over our heads, vanished with an angry scream into the depths beneath. But we took little heed of these things. Our nerves were deadened, and no danger seemed to affect them. There was the end of the road, and there were our footprints and the impress of the yak's hoofs on the snow. The sight of them affected me, for it seemed strange that we should have lived to look upon them again. We stared over the edge of the precipice. Yes, it was sheer and absolute, unclimbable. "Come to the glacier," said Leo. So we went on to it, and scrambling a little way down its route, made an examination. Here, so far as we could judge, the cliff was about 400 feet deep, but whether or not the tongue of ice reached to the foot of it we were unable to tell, since about 2/3 of the way down it seemed arched inwards like the end of a bent bow, and the conformation of the overhanging rocks on either side was such that we could not see where it terminated. We climbed back again and sat down, and despair took hold of us, bitter, black despair. "What are we to do?" I asked. "In front of us, death. Behind us, death. For how can we recross those mountains without food or guns to shoot it with? Here, death, for we must sit and starve. We have striven and failed. Leo, our end is at hand. Only a miracle can save us." "A miracle?" he answered. "Well,